Well, let's cross to Moscow now and speak to Jim Kovpak to bring us the Russian reaction to this. Hello again to you, Jim. So the ceasefire has been agreed of sorts. I guess this will be seen as a victory for the Russians.
Well, certainly. They've been playing it that way on state TV since Sunday, actually.
And the points of the Russian involvement in Aleppo is leading to this kind of misinformation coming around about these atrocities being committed. The Russians deny they're happening. The UN and monitors on the ground say they are happening. How's that going to be squared in the months and weeks going forward?
I can assure you that the Russian government is going to continue to categorically deny that they have any involvement in atrocities or that the Syrian government forces have been involved in atrocities. They're already starting to claim that these atrocities, the videos and whatnot, have been fabricated by the, quote, terrorists. And I can guarantee you, you're going to see that continue. You're not going to get any admissions, at least not from the Russian side.
I mean, Jim, how does the sort of the fights between Vitaly Zhurkin and Samantha Power in the Security Council, how's that playing out in Russia? How are Russian public seeing that, seeing sort of this churlish behaviour by both major diplomats in a place like the UN?
I can tell you that, David, the average Russian on the street doesn't think much of this. I mean, the people who watch the state-run news, especially the Sunday programs, like to get this idea that Russia is a risen superpower, that they're a major player in the world, on the world stage. They're showing a lot of footage of their cool new military equipment, their aircraft carriers, their planes. Of course, they're ignoring the planes that have crashed recently. But basically, the Russians just go along with the government these days.
And Jim, you mentioned their equipment. Of course, the Russian aircraft carrier is in the region. They've got planes there and troops on the ground. Well, how will the Russian campaign now pivot if Aleppo there is a ceasefire and it's peace of sorts in that city?
Well, most everybody is looking at Idlib as being the next place that the Russians and the government forces are going to try to retake. But now, of course, they have a thorn in their side, which is the Islamic State. As we know, retook Palmyra on Sunday. And it's interesting to note that when they retook Palmyra and their offensive to the west is continuing, the Russians claim that they carried out a number of airstrikes against that Islamic State force, but clearly it hasn't stopped it. So it's quite possible that they were focused so much on Aleppo and maybe possibly preparing to go after Idlib, and they just didn't have the resources. They weren't able to get their forces, these are air forces, redirected near Palmyra, because clearly the Islamic State has taken that city and they just keep coming.
Absolutely. Okay, Jim, for now in Moscow, thank you.